At Morixa Tales, we believe in the power of storytelling. Our scripts weave together deep emotions and dramatic turns to deliver justice where it is most needed. Experience captivating mysteries where the truth eventually shines through, leaving a lasting impact on your heart and mind.
2 weeks after our wedding, my husband took me to an elegant restaurant in Portland to celebrate our new beginning. Candlelight flickered across the table, red wine breathed in crystal glasses, and a soft piano played in the background. Everything looked perfect. Then he excused himself to take a phone call outside. An older man at the table beside us suddenly leaned closer, slipped $3,400 into my hand, and whispered urgently, "Listen to me. If you want to live run now, you're the 10th one." I almost laughed, thinking the man had lost his mind. But only minutes later, I realized I had nearly failed to escape that restaurant alive. I truly appreciate you choosing to spend your time here. Quick question before we dive in. Where are you watching from? Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. I love connecting with viewers from all over the world and learning how our paths cross. One last thing, this story blends psychological tactics with dramatized scenarios for clarity and impact. Any overlap with actual identities or settings is purely accidental. That said, the warning signs and survival strategies shared here are entirely practical and useful. The Pearl Room smelled like money and rosemary. I remember that rosemary from the herb-crusted salmon on my plate, and something else, something clean and expensive like the kind of candles you find in boutiques where they don't list prices. The restaurant sat on the corner of Northwest 11th and Gleason all-exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place where tech executives closed deals and newlyweds celebrated fresh starts. We were the latter, 2 weeks married. 14 days since I'd signed my name beside Donovan Ashford's at the Multnomah County Courthouse, wearing a cream dress I'd bought on sale at Nordstrom Rack and holding a bouquet of farmers market dahlias. My husband sat across from me now, his hand resting over mine on the white tablecloth, his smile easy and warm in the candlelight. "To us," Donovan said, lifting his glass of Oregon Pinot Noir. The wine caught the light, deep red, almost black. "To 2 weeks down and a lifetime to go." I clinked my glass against his, laughing. "You're such a romantic." "Only for you, Cass." The nickname still felt new. Cassidy had always been my full name. My father used to say it was strong, that it suited an architect. I'd carried that name through undergrad at Portland State, through 7 years building my little studio on Morrison Street, through the loneliness after Mom died in 2019, and I realized I had no one left. Then Donovan appeared at an art gallery opening last October, all charm and sharp jawline and questions about my work. And suddenly Cassidy became Cass, and Lonely became married. I was 34. He was 42. People said we moved fast, 10 months from first date to wedding, but when you know, you know. That's what everyone says, right? The server refilled our water glasses. A pianist in the corner played something soft and jazzy. Rain tapped against the windows, turning downtown Portland into a blur of neon and headlights. August in Oregon meant the tail end of summer. That brief stretch before fall came early, and the clouds settled in for 9 months. Tonight was warm, almost 70 degrees, and I'd worn the green dress Donovan liked. Everything felt perfect. Then his phone buzzed. Donovan glanced at the screen, his smile faltering for just a second, barely a flicker, but I caught it. "Work thing," he said, standing. "Give me 2 minutes, honey. Order dessert if you want." He kissed the top of my head and walked toward the back hallway, phone pressed to his ear. I watched him go, that small knot of unease I'd felt a few times before, tightening in my stomach. He worked in real estate investment. He'd told me private deals, high net worth clients, the kind of work that required discretion. I didn't ask too many questions. I didn't want to seem paranoid. I reached for my wine. That's when the man at the next table leaned toward me. He was older, late 60s, maybe 70, with silver hair and a weathered face, the kind of face that had seen too much sun or too much grief or both. He wore a flannel shirt under a canvas jacket, the kind you'd find at a thrift shop or in the back of someone's closet for 20 years. His hands were shaking. "Ma'am," he said quietly. His voice cracked. "I need you to listen very carefully." I froze. My fingers tightened around the stem of my wine glass. The man slid a white envelope across the gap between our tables. It was thick, wrinkled, held together with a rubber band. "Take this," he whispered. "It's $3,400. It's everything I have left." I stared at him. I don't understand. Your husband." He interrupted, and his eyes were wet, now filled with something that looked like desperation and rage and unbearable sadness all at once. "The man you just toasted, Donovan Ashford. He killed my daughter." The restaurant noise, the piano, the laughter, the clinking glasses seemed to collapse into static. I couldn't breathe. What are you... 3 years ago," the man continued faster, now his voice barely above a whisper. "Her name was Natalie Fletcher. She was 26. She married him. 3 months later, they found her body in the Willamette River. They called it an accident." He leaned closer, and I could smell coffee and rain on his jacket. "It wasn't." My heart hammered against my ribs. You're insane. You're number 10, he said, and his voice broke. "There were 8 before Natalie, and there's been 1 since. You're the 10th woman he's targeted. I've been following him for months, waiting for the right moment to warn you. Tonight, when I saw you walk in, I knew I couldn't wait any longer." I shook my head, pushing back from the table. "This is crazy. You don't know what you're talking about." "He's going to take everything from you," the man said, urgent now, gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Your loft, your business, your savings. And then he'll make sure you disappear just like Natalie did, just like the others did. You have maybe hours, maybe less." I glanced toward the back hallway. Donovan was still on the phone, his back to the dining room, one hand gesturing as he spoke. The man pressed the envelope into my hand. "My name is Warren Fletcher. I was a private investigator for 30 years before his mother destroyed my license. I've spent everything I had trying to stop him. This money, it's all I can give you. Take it. Run. Tonight. Right now." "Run where?" I heard myself say, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "Out the restroom window," Warren said. "It faces the alley. Go now before he comes back. Get out of Portland if you can. Don't go home. Don't call anyone he knows. Just disappear." I looked at the envelope in my lap. $3,400, a stranger's life savings. "Why should I believe you?" I whispered. Warren's face crumpled. "Because my daughter didn't." Before I could respond, before I could process any of it, the fire alarm exploded into sound. Lights flashed red along the ceiling. The piano stopped mid-note. Servers froze, trays in hand, and then the entire restaurant erupted into motion chairs, scraping voices rising, someone shouting about smoke, a manager calling for everyone to stay calm and proceed to the exits. I looked up, searching for Donovan. He was standing in the hallway, phone still in his hand, his eyes locked on me across the chaos. He wasn't moving toward the door like everyone else. He was staring at me, his face perfectly blank, and for the first time since I'd met him, I felt a spike of cold terror run down my spine. When I turned back to Warren's table, he was gone. The envelope sat heavy in my lap, rubber band digging into my palm, and the alarm kept screaming. I didn't think. I just moved. My chair scraped back as I stood clutching the envelope against my ribs. Everyone was pushing toward the exits, the alarm drowning out everything except my pulse. I walked, not ran, not yet, toward the back hallway where the restrooms sat beside the kitchen. The women's room door cut the noise to a muffled wail. 2 stalls, a sink, a narrow window above the towel dispenser. I kicked off my heels, climbed onto the counter, and shoved the window latch open. 8 feet down to the alley, dumpsters, rain-slicked pavement, the smell of grease. I squeezed through and dropped my bare feet hitting concrete, cold and sharp. Somewhere behind me, voices echoed. I didn't look back. I ran. 2 blocks north, my feet started bleeding. I ducked into a doorway and opened Uber. 3 minutes away. I crouched there, shivering in my green dress, watching headlights sweep past on Burnside. The silver Honda pulled up. The driver college kid Timber's scarf on the dash gave me a look. "You good?" "Boyfriend drama." I lied. He nodded and pulled into traffic. I pressed my forehead against the window and watched Portland blur past. Neon signs, food carts, homeless camps beneath the bridge. The city I'd lived in my whole life suddenly felt foreign. I opened the envelope. $3,400, all cash. 20s, 10s, crumpled 5s. The bills smelled like old leather and tobacco. I counted twice. The number didn't change. Everything I have left Warren had said. I thought about his face, the grief carved into every line, the way his voice cracked when he said my daughter. I thought about Donovan's hand over mine at the table, the candlelight catching on his wedding ring, the way he'd smiled and said, "Only for you, Cass." 10 months ago, I hadn't known Donovan Ashford existed. October 1st, Thursday, the monthly art walk in the Pearl District. I'd gone alone with cheap wine in my portfolio. I was 33, single, running a 2-person architecture studio that barely broke even. Then Donovan walked up in front of a bronze sculpture and said, "You look like someone who knows whether this is genius or expensive garbage." I laughed. He had this way of making you feel like the only person in the room worth talking to. We spent 2 hours walking the district, talking about art and buildings. He told me he worked in real estate investment, that he'd moved from Seattle 5 years ago, that he'd been married once, but it ended badly. By the time we reached my studio on Morrison Street, he'd asked for my number. By November, we were dating. By March, we were standing on the Wildwood Trail in Forest Park rain, dripping through the Douglas firs, and he was kneeling in the mud with a ring. "I know it's fast," he'd said, "but I've spent enough of my life alone to know when I've found something real. Marry me, Cassidy." I said yes. I was tired of being alone, tired of coming home to an empty loft and wondering if I'd missed the window where everyone else figured out how to build a life. We married May 15th at the courthouse. No ceremony, no guests, just us and a judge and a bouquet from the farmer's market. Afterward, we drove to Cannon Beach for a week, renting a cabin near Haystack Rock. That was the morning he brought out the tablet. We were on the porch drinking coffee. Donovan set his mug down and pulled an iPad from his bag. "Hey, real quick, I need you to sign something." I barely glanced up. "What is it?" "Insurance enrollment," he said casually. "I added you to my policy, Health Life, the works. Just need your signature." The ocean breeze lifted my hair. I felt safe, happy, unguarded. "Where do I sign?" He turned the screen toward me. A form-dense paragraph's legal jargon I didn't bother reading. A signature field at the bottom. I signed with my finger. "Perfect," Donovan said. "All set." I went back to my coffee, back to the waves. I didn't think about it again. Not until tonight, sitting in a stranger's car holding $3,000 and trying to figure out what Warren meant when he said Donovan was going to take everything. The Uber stopped in front of my building, a renovated warehouse on Northwest Lovejoy. I lived on the 3rd floor, a loft I'd saved years to buy. 920 square feet of exposed brick and morning light. It was mine, the only thing in my life that had ever been completely mine. I climbed the stairs barefoot, my heels dangling from one hand. Inside, I locked the door and stood there breathing. The loft looked exactly as I'd left it. Sketches on the wall, coffee mug in the sink, Donovan's jacket on the couch. Normal, safe. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. $47,200, 7 years of freelance work. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start over, enough to disappear. I tapped transfer, entered my mother's old account number, a safe place somewhere Donovan couldn't touch. I hit confirm. The screen flickered. Transfer failed. Account restricted. Contact your financial institution for details. I stared at the message. I tried again. Same error. Again. Same. My hands went cold. I called the bank's 24-hour line, navigating the automated menu. Finally, a representative picked up. "I need to know why my account is restricted." Keys clicking. A pause. "Your account was flagged today for suspicious activity and placed under a temporary hold at the request of a joint account holder." "I don't have a joint account holder." More clicking. "According to our records, you authorized joint access and power of attorney on May 20th. May 20th. The cabin, the tablet, the signature I didn't read. "No," I whispered, "that's not. You'll need to speak with the primary account holder, Mr. Donovan Ashford, or visit a branch during business hours." The line went dead. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, the silence louder than the fire alarm had been. Warren's voice echoed in my head. "He's going to take everything from you." The loft suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. I looked at Donovan's jacket draped over the couch, the jacket I'd hung there this morning, thinking it was sweet that he left pieces of himself in my space. Now it looked like a claim, a mark of ownership. I walked to the window and stared out at the rain-slick streets below at the city lights blurring through the glass, and I finally understood. I wasn't his wife. I was his 10th victim, and the trap had already closed. I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch in my green dress, staring at the ceiling until the sky turned from black to gray. Around 6, I gave up and made coffee. My hands shook so badly I spilled grounds across the counter. The bank representative's words kept looping. You authorized joint access and power of attorney on May 20th. May 20th, 5 days after our courthouse wedding, the morning on the porch in Cannon Beach, the tablet, the signature I didn't read. I opened my laptop and searched my email for anything from May, receipts, confirmations, anything. There, an email from May 20th, 9:47 a.m. sender, SureSafe Insurance Partners. Subject, welcome to SureSafe Your Enrollment Confirmation. I clicked it open, 2 lines of text and a PDF attachment. Dear Cassidy Ashford, thank you for enrolling in SureSafe Insurance. Please find your signed agreement attached for your records. I downloaded the PDF. My stomach twisted as the pages loaded. The header read First Bank of Oregon Joint Account Access Agreement and Power of Attorney Authorization. Not insurance, not even close. I scrolled through the 17-page document, my eyes catching on phrases that made my skin crawl. Cassidy Marie Reeves Ashford hereby grants Donovan James Ashford full joint access to account number 4472, including but not limited to withdrawal, transfer, closure, and reporting rights. Cassidy Marie Reeves Ashford hereby grants Donovan James Ashford durable power of attorney for all financial matters, effective immediately and irrevocable without notarized written consent from both parties. At the bottom of page 12, my signature. I read the suspicious activity clause 3 times. The authorized power of attorney holder may request temporary account restrictions up to 72 hours in cases of suspected fraud, identity theft, or financial abuse, without prior notification to the primary account holder. That's what he'd done. Last night after I ran, he'd called the bank and reported a suspicious large transfer attempt and triggered an automatic freeze. He'd locked me out of my own money using the signature I'd given him on our honeymoon. By 9 a.m., I was on the phone with First Bank's downtown branch. I'd showered, changed into jeans and a sweater, and rehearsed what I was going to say. Stay calm. Be clear. Fix this. The branch manager, a woman named Helen, listened while I explained. I didn't know what I was signing. My husband told me it was insurance. I need the power of attorney revoked. I understand, Mrs. Ashford, Helen said. Unfortunately, revocation requires written consent from both parties and notarization. Without Mr. Ashford's signature, I can't make changes. He tricked me, I said, my voice cracking. If you believe fraud occurred, you'll need to file a police report. In the meantime, the 72-hour hold remains in effect. When does it end? The hold was initiated yesterday at 6:15 p.m. It will lift automatically on August 19th at 6:15 p.m. unless Mr. Ashford requests an extension. 3 more days, and Donovan could extend it whenever he wanted. What if I need to access my money before then? You'll need Mr. Ashford's authorization. I hung up before I started screaming. I tried calling Donovan. It went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. No response. I tried his work number, the one he'd given me months ago. Disconnected. I thought about going to the police, but what would I say? My husband tricked me into signing a legal document. I was an architect. I signed contracts for a living. Any cop would take one look at that PDF and tell me I should have read what I was signing. Warren's words came back. He's going to take everything from you. I spent the rest of the day at my studio on Morrison Street trying to work. My business partner, Trevor, was out meeting a client, so I had the space to myself. I sat at my drafting table staring at blueprints I couldn't focus on and tried to figure out what Donovan's next move would be. The money was frozen, but I still had the loft. I still had my half of the studio. Those were mine, bought before I ever met him, titled in my name alone. Weren't they? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Go home, Cassidy. We need to talk, D. I stared at the message. I needed answers. I needed to look him in the eye and hear him explain what he thought he was doing. I locked up the studio and drove home. By the time I pulled onto Northwest Lovejoy, it was 5:30. The street was quiet, just a few people walking dogs, a delivery truck idling at the corner. I climbed the stairs to the third floor, my keys already in my hand. I slid the key into the lock. It didn't turn. I tried again, jiggling the handle. Nothing. I pulled the key out and checked its same key I'd used 1,000 times, the one with the blue rubber grip from Home Depot. I tried again. Still nothing. A door opened down the hall. A woman stepped out, mid-30s blonde, wearing yoga pants and holding a coffee mug. I'd never seen her before. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but wary. "I live here," I said. "Third floor, Unit C." She frowned. "I don't think so. I'm in Unit C. I just moved in this afternoon." "What?" "I signed the lease this morning," she said. "The landlord met me here at 4 and gave me the keys." I stared at her. At the door that used to be mine. At the key in my hand that no longer worked. "That's my apartment," I whispered. She took a step back. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but I have the paperwork. If you have a problem, you need to call the landlord." She closed the door. I heard the lock click. I stood there in the hallway, my key still raised, and the truth settled over me like ice water. He'd taken the loft. While I was at the studio trying to figure out how to survive, Donovan had taken my home. I knocked again, harder this time. My knuckles stung against the wood, but I didn't care. This was my door, my apartment, my lock. The woman Emily, she'd said, opened the door wider, no longer polite. She'd traded the coffee mug for a phone held up like a weapon. "Look, I already told you I live here now. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops." "Call them," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Please, call them right now." She blinked, surprised. Then she dialed. I stepped back and pulled out my own phone, scrolling for my landlord's number. Gerald Marsh. I'd been renting from him for 6 years, paid on time every month, never caused problems. He'd know this was a mistake. The call went straight to a recorded message. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." I tried again. Same message. My stomach dropped. Emily was talking to a 911 dispatcher now, her voice clipped and nervous. "Yes, there's a woman trying to break into my apartment. 3rd floor, 920 Northwest Lovejoy, Unit C. No, she's not violent, but she won't leave." I wanted to scream. Instead, I opened my email and searched for anything from Gerald. Lease renewal notices, maintenance requests, anything. Nothing recent. The last email was from March, a rent increase notice sent from an address that now bounced back as undeliverable. 10 minutes later, 2 Portland police officers arrived. One was a middle-aged man with a name tag that read Martinez. The other was younger, a woman named Parker. Emily met them at the door, holding a manila folder. I stood in the hallway, my arms wrapped around myself, trying not to look like a crazy person. "Ma'am," Martinez said, turning to me, "what's going on here?" "This is my apartment," I said. "I've lived here for 6 years. I came home and my key didn't work and she's—" I gestured at Emily. "She says she just moved in, but that's impossible." Martinez looked at Emily. "You have documentation." Emily handed him the folder. "I signed the lease this morning. The landlord met me here at 4 and gave me the keys. I have the signed agreement, the key receipt, and the locksmith permit." Martinez flipped through the pages. Park leaned over his shoulder, reading. "This lease is notarized," Martinez said. "Signed yesterday, August 15th at 4 p.m. "That's impossible," I said. "I was at my studio yesterday afternoon. I didn't sign anything." "The landlord signed it," Emily said. "Not her. It's his property. He can lease it to whoever he wants." "Gerald Marsh is my landlord," I said. "Call him. He'll tell you." "The landlord listed here is Morrison Property Management, LLC," Martinez said. "Owner listed as Pamela Ashford, authorized agent for rental transactions." The name hit me like a fist. Pamela Ashford, Donovan's mother. "Let me see that," I said, reaching for the folder. Martinez pulled it back. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down." "I am calm," I said, though my voice was shaking. "That woman, Pamela Ashford, she's my husband's mother. This is fraud. She doesn't own this building." According to county records, Park said, tapping her phone, Morrison Property Management, LLC filed ownership transfer paperwork for this address on August 10th, notarized and recorded. August 10th. 5 days before the lease Emily was holding. 5 days after Donovan and I got married. "That's fake," I whispered. "It has to be fake." Martinez handed the folder back to Emily. "Ma'am, this is a civil matter. You'll need to contact a lawyer and dispute the ownership transfer through the courts. We can't remove someone from a property when they have a legally notarized lease. But it's my home. If you believe fraud occurred, you can file a report at the station." Park said, her tone softer. "But right now she has documentation and you don't. I'm sorry." They left, just like that. Walked back down the stairs and drove away, leaving me standing in the hallway with Emily Carr, who looked almost as shaken as I felt. "I didn't know," Emily said quietly. "I swear I didn't know any of this. I just saw the ad on Craigslist. It seemed legitimate." I turned to her. "When did you see the ad?" "Last week, August 10th, I think. I emailed the contact and they responded right away." "What contact?" She pulled out her phone and showed me the email thread. The sender was listed as P. Ashford Morrison Property Management. The email address, pmashford.property@gmail.com. A fake account set up to look official. "They sent me the lease agreement on the 13th, Emily continued. "I signed it electronically and sent a deposit first and last month's rent plus security. $3,400, the same amount Warren had given me. Yesterday afternoon," Emily said, "I got a text saying the keys were ready. I met someone here at 4, a woman older, really professional. She handed me the keys and said the locksmith was on his way. He showed up 20 minutes later and changed the lock." "What did the woman look like?" Emily thought for a moment. 60-something, gray hair in a bun, expensive clothes. She had a county badge on a lanyard, some kind of official ID. "Pamela. She'd been here. Yesterday. At 4 p.m., while I was at my studio, she'd handed Emily my keys, changed my locks, and erased me from my own home. And she'd done it legally, with notarized documents and permits and paperwork that would take me months to fight in court if I could even afford a lawyer." "I'm sorry," Emily said again. She looked like she meant it. "I didn't know I was part of something like this." I nodded, too numb to speak. She closed the door, gently this time. I stood there in the hallway staring at the lock that used to be mine and tried to figure out where I was supposed to go. I had no money, no home, no one to call. I walked down the stairs and pushed through the building's front door onto Northwest Lovejoy. The evening air was cool. The street was quiet. And then I saw them. 2 cars pulling up to the curb. The first was Donovan's silver Audi. The second was a black Mercedes, sleek and spotless. Donovan stepped out of the Audi. He didn't look surprised to see me. He looked calm, almost bored. The Mercedes door opened and a woman emerged. She was exactly as Emily had described, 60-something gray hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a charcoal blazer and slacks that probably cost more than my monthly rent. A lanyard hung around her neck, a county employee badge glinting in the streetlight. Pamela Ashford, Donovan's mother. She looked at me the way you'd look at a stray dog, not unkind, just inconvenient. "Cassidy," Donovan said, his voice smooth. "We need to talk." The elegant woman beside Donovan spoke first. Her voice had authority. I couldn't fight the kind that came from years of telling people what to do and watching them obey. "Ms. Reeves," she said, almost gentle. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." I stared at her. Up close, Pamela Ashford was polished gray suit hair pulled into a tight bun. The lanyard around her neck held a laminated badge, Multnomah County Deputy Director, Real Estate and Records Division. She pulled an iPad from her leather bag and turned it toward me. "You signed the property transfer deed on August 8th, Pamela said calmly. "This loft now belongs to my son." I looked at the screen. It was a PDF with a county seal. At the top, quitclaim deed, Multnomah County, Oregon. My name was listed under grantor, Donovan's under grantee. The property description matched my loft 920 Northwest Lovejoy Street, Unit C, Portland, Oregon, 97209. The consideration line read, "Transfer of property valued at $680,000 in exchange for $1 and other valuable consideration." $1. I'd signed away my home for $1. At the bottom, my signature looped and hasty captured in digital ink. Beside it, a notary seal. Date August 8th, 2024, time 8:47 p.m. "That's not," my voice cracked. "I didn't sign that." Pamela zoomed in on the signature. "It's your handwriting, Ms. Reeves, notarized by a licensed Oregon notary. The document was filed with the county on August 9th. It's legally binding." I tried to think. August 8th. What had I been doing? The memory surfaced slowly. It was a Thursday. Donovan and I had cooked dinner together. We'd sat on the couch afterward talking about nothing. I'd been tired, happy. He'd reached for his tablet, said something about needing my signature for the water bill auto-pay setup. The building had switched to a new system, he'd explained. Joint accounts for married tenants. Just a formality. I'd barely looked at the screen. I was halfway through my second glass of wine, warm and sleepy and trusting. "Right here," he'd said, pointing to a signature line. I'd signed with my finger. Sloppy. Quick. "Perfect," he'd murmured, kissing the top of my head. "All set." I hadn't thought about it again. Now I understood. The tablet hadn't been for a water bill. It had been for this, a quitclaim deed transferring my loft into Donovan's name, and I'd signed it without reading a single word. "You tricked me," I whispered. "You signed a legal document," Pamela corrected. "Whether you read it or not is irrelevant. The county has the original on file. The notary confirmed your identity. There's no dispute here. The property is Donovan's." Neighbors began to appear. Doors opened. Windows cracked. People watched. Pamela's voice rose slightly, just enough to carry. "I understand this is difficult for you, but the county takes property fraud very seriously. You attempted to contest a legal transfer by claiming you still owned this unit. That's a serious accusation." "I do own it," I said louder. "I bought it 6 years ago. My name is on the original deed." "Was on the original deed," Pamela interrupted smoothly, "until you transferred it to your husband on August 8th. I have the documentation right here." She tapped the iPad. "Filed and recorded. Public record. More neighbors now, watching, listening." Pamela turned, slightly addressing them as much as me. "Ms. Reeves is understandably upset. Marital property disputes can be very emotional. But I want to assure everyone that the county has thoroughly reviewed the paperwork. This is a legal matter, and it's been handled appropriately." She made it sound so reasonable, so official, like I was the problem, like I was the one causing a scene. "You're lying," I said, my voice shaking. "You forged that notary seal. You and Donovan planned this." "The notary is a licensed professional with 20 years of experience," Pamela said. "If you're accusing her of fraud, you'll need to file a formal complaint with the state. But I warn you, making false accusations against a public servant is a crime in Oregon." The neighbors were watching me now, some curious, some uncomfortable. One man shook his head and went back inside. I looked at Donovan. He'd been silent this whole time, standing beside his mother with his hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them you lied to me." He tilted his head, almost sad. "Cassidy, you're not well. You've been under a lot of stress lately." "Don't," I hissed. "And I think you need help." He glanced at Pamela. "We both think that." Pamela nodded, sympathetic. "There are resources available, Ms. Reeves. Counseling, support groups. I can give you some referrals." I couldn't breathe. The street was closing and the neighbors' eyes pressing down on me, Pamela's voice wrapping around my throat like a noose. Donovan stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "You have nowhere to go now, Cassidy. No money, no home, no one who believes you." His tone was almost gentle. "Come home with me. Stop fighting. I'll take care of you." Something inside me snapped. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. Just ran, lungs burning, vision blurring. I heard Donovan call my name once, but he didn't follow. I didn't stop until I reached a bus stop on Couch Street 3 blocks away. I collapsed onto the bench. My hands were shaking. My chest hurt. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting Donovan, expecting some new threat. But the number was unfamiliar. The message was short. "Meet me at Powell's Books, 9 p.m., booth 14. Don't go anywhere else. Trust no one. Warren." I stared at the screen, trying to catch my breath. It was 6:15. I had 2 hours and 45 minutes. I had nowhere else to go. Powell's Books smelled like old paper and coffee. I pushed through the front entrance on Burnside just before 9, the bells above the door chiming softly. The store was still busy, students bent over textbooks in the cafe, tourists browsing the new releases, a clerk reshelving books in the poetry section. 3 floors of floor-to-ceiling shelves, color-coded rooms, narrow staircases winding up and down. It was the kind of place you could disappear into. I needed to disappear. I climbed the stairs to the gold room on the 2nd floor, past fiction and travel guides, toward the back corner where the reading booth sat tucked between the stacks. Booth 14 was the farthest one, a wooden bench worn smooth by decades of readers, a small lamp casting warm light over the spines of forgotten classics. Warren Fletcher was already there. He looked worse than he had at the restaurant. His flannel shirt was wrinkled, his canvas jacket smudged with something dark mud maybe, or grease. His hair was uncombed, his face pale and drawn. But it was his hands that caught my attention. They were resting on the table in front of him, fingers laced together, and they wouldn't stop shaking. "Ms. Reeves," he said quietly. He didn't stand, just looked at me with eyes that had seen too much and understood even more. I slid into the booth across from him. "You said to trust no one, so why should I trust you? Because I'm the only person left who's telling you the truth." His voice was hoarse, like he'd been screaming, and only just stopped. "And because I failed my daughter, I won't fail you." I folded my arms. "Tell me about her." Warren took a breath. It came out shaky. Her name was Natalie Fletcher. She was 26, smart, funny. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a tech startup. Downtown, one of those companies that makes apps nobody really needs, but everyone downloads anyway. He smiled faintly, like the memory hurt. She met Donovan at a networking event in August of 2021. He was charming, successful, interested in her work. By October, they were engaged. By November, they were married. "Fast," I murmured. "That's what I said." Warren's jaw tightened. I told her it was too fast, that I didn't trust him. She said I was being overprotective, that I needed to let her live her own life. He looked down at his hands. She was right. I was overprotective. I'd raised her alone since her mother died when she was 8. Natalie was all I had. I waited. 3 months after the wedding, Warren continued, they found her body in the Willamette River, February 9th, 2022. She'd been in the water for 2 days. The police said she'd gone for a walk along the waterfront, slipped on the ice, hit her head, and fell in. Accidental drowning. Case closed. But you didn't believe them. No. His voice hardened. Natalie hated the cold. She wouldn't have gone walking by the river in February, and she had a bruise on her wrist, faint almost gone, but I saw it at the morgue. Like someone had grabbed her. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I started digging," Warren said. "I was a private investigator for 30 years. I had contacts, resources. I pulled Donovan's background, his financials, his history, and I found them." Found who? The others. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn soft, creased from being opened and closed too many times. He spread it on the table between us. It was a list, handwritten, 8 names. Melissa Crane, Warren said, pointing to the first name. Married Donovan in 2008, died of an overdose 6 months later, ruled suicide. He moved his finger down the list. Rachel Mont, 2011, fell down the stairs in her own home. Accidental death. Another name, Sarah Bennett, 2015, car accident on Highway 26, brake failure. His finger kept moving, name after name, year after year. Brenda Kofi, Diana Petrova, Hannah Moss, Claire Delaney. Warren looked up at me. And then Natalie. 8 women in 13 years. All of them single. All of them financially independent. All of them married to Donovan Ashford for less than 6 months before they died. And every single one of them signed over their assets to him before they died, life insurance, property, savings accounts. Everything. I couldn't breathe. "You're number 10, Warren said. "There was one after Natalie, a woman named Claire Delaney. She died last year overdosed just like Melissa. The pattern is always the same. He marries them, isolates them, takes their money, and then they disappear. Why hasn't anyone stopped him?" I whispered. I tried. Warren's voice cracked. I went to the FBI in the spring of 2022, gave them everything I had, the list, the financial records, the death certificates. They opened an investigation. Money laundering, real estate fraud. They've been looking at Pamela Ashford for 18 months now, her position at the county, the property transfers, the shell companies. But they can't connect it to the murders. The deaths look accidental. The paperwork looks legal. Donovan's smart, and his mother has power. What did she do to you? Warren's face went dark. She had me committed. September of 2022. I was getting too close, asking too many questions. One day I'm meeting with an FBI agent, and the next day I'm being escorted to Oregon State Hospital by 2 deputies with a psychiatric hold order signed by a county judge. They said I was delusional, dangerous to myself and others. They kept me there for 9 months. I stared at him. 9 months. By the time I got out, my PI license was revoked. I had a restraining order against me, couldn't go within 500 feet of Donovan or Pamela, couldn't contact the FBI, couldn't do anything except watch. His hands tightened into fists. And then I saw you, at the restaurant, sitting across from him, smiling, holding his hand. And I knew you were next. Why didn't you just call the police? Because they won't believe you, Warren said. Not until it's too late. You signed those documents, Cassidy. The bank account, the deed. It's all legal. And when you're dead, it'll all go to him. Just like it did for the others. I felt dizzy. The bookstore around us, the warm light, the quiet hum of voices felt unreal. Like I was watching myself from somewhere far away. What do? I asked. Warren leaned forward. We get proof, real proof, the kind the FBI can't ignore. How? Pamela keeps records, he said. She's too careful not to. There's a safe in her office at the county building. I've been watching her for months. I know the layout. I know the security schedule. But I can't get in, not with the restraining order. If I'm caught within 500 feet of her, I go back to the hospital. He looked at me, his eyes fierce now. But you can. I shook my head. I can't break into a government building. You're victim number 10, Cassidy. Warren interrupted. If we don't act, you'll be dead within a week, and then he'll find number 11 and 12, and it'll never stop. The words hung in the air between us. What's in the safe? I asked. Everything, Warren said. The ledger, the contracts, proof of every woman he's killed, proof Pamela has been helping him. I closed my eyes, thought about my empty bank account, my stolen home. Donovan's voice in my ear. You have nowhere to go. Warren was right. I had 2 choices: run and let the next woman die, or fight. I opened my eyes. Tell me the plan. We left Powell's through the side exit on 10th Avenue. The street was quieter here, away from Burnside's late-night traffic. Warren walked with his hands in his pockets, his shoulders hunched like a man who'd learned to make himself small. I followed a step behind, my mind still spinning. Tell me the plan. I'd said it, committed to it, but I had no idea what I was agreeing to. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks over, Warren said. Case study, open till midnight. We can talk there. I nodded, too numb to argue. The cafe was tucked into a narrow storefront between a vintage clothing shop and a closed barber shop. Inside, it was all exposed brick and mismatched furniture, the kind of place Portland did better than anywhere else. A barista with a shaved head and sleeve tattoos glanced up from behind the counter, nodded at Warren like he was a regular, and went back to wiping down the espresso machine. We took a table in the back corner. Warren ordered 2 black coffees. I didn't drink mine. He pulled a laptop from his canvas bag, an old Dell battered and covered in stickers from long-defunct tech companies. He opened it, typed in a password, and turned the screen toward me. I need to show you something first, he said. The screen displayed a scanned photograph, faded, creased, the colors washed out the way old photos get. 2 men stood in front of a brick building, arms slung over each other's shoulders, grinning. One of them was Warren, maybe 30 years younger, his hair still dark, his face unlined. The other man was younger, early 20s, with shaggy blonde hair and a denim jacket. I knew that face. I'd seen it in exactly 1 photograph, a wallet-sized picture my mother kept in a drawer, yellowed, and folded, the only image of my father she hadn't thrown away after he died. That's, my voice caught. That's my dad. Warren nodded slowly. David Reeves, he was my best friend. We ran a PI firm together in the 80s and early 90s, Reeves and Fletcher investigations. Handled everything from insurance fraud to missing persons. We were good. Built a solid reputation. I stared at the photo. My father looked so young, so alive. He died in a car accident, I whispered. December 1994, I was 4. I know, Warren said quietly. I was the one who identified his body. The words hit me like a fist. Highway 217, just south of Beaverton. Warren continued. Single car crash. His brakes failed going into a curve. He hit a guardrail at 60 miles an hour. The police said it was mechanical failure, old car-worn brake lines. These things happen. But you didn't believe them. Warren's jaw tightened. David was careful. He checked his car every week, oil, tires, brakes. It was a habit from the job. We dealt with people who didn't like being investigated. He knew better than to ignore maintenance. You think someone killed him? I think someone wanted him dead, Warren said. We were working a case real estate fraud money laundering through property transfers. David was close to cracking it, and then he was gone. I couldn't breathe. Did you ever find out who? No. Warren's voice was flat. The case files disappeared after he died. Our office was broken into 2 days after the funeral. They took the hard drives, the paper files, everything. I tried to keep investigating, but without the evidence, I had nothing. And your mother... He paused. She wanted nothing to do with me. She blamed me for getting David involved in dangerous work. She took you and moved to Seattle a month later. I tried to keep track of you over the years, but she made it clear I wasn't welcome. I felt something crack inside me. She never told me any of this. She was protecting you, Warren said, or trying to. She didn't want you growing up in the shadow of your father's death. I thought about my mother, quiet-guarded, always working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. She died of cancer 5 years ago, and I'd been alone ever since. No siblings, no extended family, just me, until Donovan. I promised David I'd look out for you, Warren said. The night before he died, we were working late, and he said if anything ever happened to him, I should make sure you were okay, that you didn't end up in a bad situation. He looked down at his hands. I failed, Natalie. I won't fail you. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away with the heel of my hand. How do we do this? Warren pulled up another file on the laptop, a floor plan. Multnomah County Building, 501 Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, 5 floors. Pamela Ashford's office is on the 5th floor, room 512. I worked a case there in 2022 before they committed me. I know the layout. He zoomed in on the 5th floor. Room 512 was marked in red. Security is minimal, Warren said. 1 guard on the ground floor from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Cameras cover floors 1 through 3, but floors 4 and 5 don't have coverage budget cuts from last year. The guard does a floor check every 2 hours, but he usually just walks the stairwells and leaves. If we time it right, we'll have a 30-minute window. What about alarms? Pamela's office has a keypad lock. I don't have the code, but I know someone who can get us in. Who? Her assistant. Woman named Jenna Wilder. She works for Pamela during the day, but she's been skimming documents for me for the past 6 months. She doesn't know what they're for, but she knows Pamela is dirty. She gave me the building access code and the location of the safe. I stared at him. You've been planning this for 6 months. Longer, Warren said. But I needed the right moment, the right person. Someone Pamela wouldn't suspect. Someone who could walk into that building without triggering alarms. Me. You. I looked at the floor plan at the red mark over room 512 and tried to imagine myself breaking into a government building in the middle of the night. It felt insane, impossible. But so did everything else that had happened in the past 24 hours. What's in the safe? I asked. A ledger, Warren said. Pamela keeps records of every transaction, every property transfer, every woman Donovan married. She's meticulous, paranoid. She doesn't trust digital records too easy to hack, too easy to trace. Everything's on paper locked in a fireproof safe, model ZX940, high security combination lock. Do you know the combination? Jenna got me the first 2 digits. The rest we'll have to figure out on site. I closed my eyes. This was real. This was happening. When I asked, tomorrow night, August 17th. The guard on duty is a guy named Ramirez. He's lazy, takes long smoke breaks. We'll go in at 11:30 after his first floor check. We'll have until 1 a.m. at the latest. I nodded slowly. Okay. Warren closed the laptop. There's one more thing. I looked up. Your business partner, Warren said, Trevor Halstead. I've been watching Donovan's patterns. He doesn't just target wives. Sometimes he targets their business partners, people with joint assets. Your studio is worth, what, $500,000? Trevor owns 50%, I said. $425,000. Exactly, Warren said. If you're dead, your half goes to Donovan as your spouse. And if Trevor is dead or incapacitated, his half becomes contestable. Donovan could claim mismanagement, force a buyout, take the whole company. My stomach dropped. You think Trevor is next? I think Donovan is already positioning him, Warren said. Has Trevor been acting strange lately, distant, paranoid? I thought about Trevor's voice on the phone earlier, cold, dismissive. Donovan showed me proof you embezzled $200,000. He thinks I stole from the company, I whispered. Warren's face darkened. That's how it starts. Donovan plants evidence, manipulates the narrative, isolates the target. By the time Trevor realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. We have to warn him. Tonight, Warren said, before Donovan makes his next move. I stood, my legs shaky. Let's go. We walked back toward Warren's car, a rusted Subaru parked 2 blocks from the cafe. The streets were nearly empty, just a few stragglers leaving bars. The city felt hollow. I pulled out my phone and stared at Trevor's contact. Do it, Warren said quietly, before Donovan gets to him first. I pressed call. 3 rings. Then Trevor's voice clipped and cold. Cassidy. Trevor, I need you to listen. I don't think that's a good idea. I stopped walking. Please, just 5 minutes. I know what Donovan told you. I know he showed you something, some kind of proof that I stole money, but it's fake Trevor. He forged it. Just like he forged the deed to my loft, just like he forged the bank documents. Cassidy, stop. His voice was hard. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if this is a breakdown or if you and Donovan are having marital problems, but I can't be in the middle of it. This isn't a breakdown, I said, my voice rising. Donovan is stealing from both of us. He's been planning this for months. He married me to get access to my assets, and now he's going after the studio. The bank sent me a report this afternoon. Trevor interrupted. A wire transfer, $200,000, from our operating account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Authorized by you. Your signature is on the transfer form. My stomach dropped. I never authorized that. It's dated August 14th. 2 days ago, the bank confirmed the money is gone. August 14th, 2 days before Warren warned me. Trevor, I didn't sign anything. Then how did your signature end up on the form? I thought about the tablet, the wine, the signatures I'd given Donovan without reading. He tricked me, I whispered. Just like he tricked me into signing over my loft. He had me sign something on a tablet. I thought it was for utilities or insurance. Cassidy, listen to yourself. Trevor's voice softened, but not kindly. The way you talk to someone you think is losing their mind. You're saying your husband tricked you into signing away $200,000. Yes. And your loft. Yes. And what, your bank account too? Yes. I was shouting now. He forged a power of attorney. He froze my savings. He convinced someone to move into my apartment with a fake lease. His mother works for the county. She helped him forge all the documents. Trevor, I know how this sounds, but I'm telling you the truth. I can't do this, Trevor said. I'm meeting with our lawyer tomorrow morning. If you want to contest the transfer, you'll need your own counsel. But until this is sorted out, I don't want you coming to the office. I've already changed the access codes. Trevor, I'm sorry, Cassidy. I really am, but I have to protect the business. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear. Warren gently took the phone from my hand. He didn't believe you. No. Donovan got to him first, Warren said, showed him the forged report, planted the story. By the time you called, Trevor's mind was made up. That's how Donovan works. He isolates you, turns your allies against you, destroys your credibility. Then when you try to defend yourself, no one listens. He's going to take the studio, I said numbly. Warren nodded, unless we stop him. I tried calling Trevor again. Voicemail. I left a message rambling desperate, begging him to check the transfer logs to verify the signature, begging him to trust me. I knew he wouldn't listen. We should go to the studio, I said. Tonight, I need the financial records prove the transfer was fake. Too dangerous, Warren said. If Donovan's watching you, and I guarantee he is, he'll know the studio is the next place you'd go. Then what do I do? My voice cracked. I've lost everything. My money, my home. My business partner thinks I'm a thief. You have the truth, Warren said, and tomorrow night we're going to prove it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Cassidy, I believe you. Meet me at the studio at 11 p.m. I have something for you. Jenna. I stared at the message. Who's Jenna? Warren asked. My assistant, I said slowly. She works at the studio, drafting client emails, file management. She's been with us for 2 years. Do you trust her? I thought about Jenna, quiet, competent, always early. I don't know, but she's the only person who's offered to help me. Warren frowned. It could be a trap, or she actually believes me. Why would she? Because maybe she saw something or heard something. Warren looked skeptical. Or maybe Donovan told her to lure you there. I looked at the text again. 11 p.m., 10 minutes from now. I have to go, I said. If there's even a chance, then I'm coming with you. I shook my head. If it is a trap, I don't want both of us caught. You need to stay free. You're the only person who knows the whole story. Warren's jaw tightened. Finally, he nodded. I'll be parked outside. If you're not out in 30 minutes, I'm calling the police. He handed me pepper spray, just in case. We drove in silence to the studio. Warren parked half a block away. I climbed out and walked toward the building. Morrison Architecture sat on the ground floor of a converted warehouse on Southeast Morrison. The windows were dark. I unlocked the front door with my spare key. Trevor hadn't thought to take that one. Inside the studio was quiet, lit only by exit signs. Jenna, I called softly. No answer. I walked deeper past the drafting tables toward the back office. A light was on. Jenna Wilder sat at the desk, laptop open. She looked up, 29, dark hair and a ponytail, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Cassidy, she said. I was hoping you'd come. She stood and pulled something from her bag. A small brass key. I overheard Pamela Ashford on the phone yesterday, Jenna said. She was talking to someone, your husband, I think. She said, the evidence is in locker 47. Only you and I know. I didn't understand what it meant. But after what happened today, Trevor accusing you, the embezzlement rumors, I started putting things together. She held out the key. I copied this from Pamela's purse when she came to the office last week. I don't know what it opens, but I think you need it more than she does. I took the key, my hands shaking. Why are you helping me? Jenna's expression hardened. Because I've seen what people like Pamela Ashford do. My sister lost everything to a man like Donovan. By the time we figured out what was happening, it was too late. She looked me in the eye. Don't let it be too late for you. I closed my fingers around the key. Thank you. Jenna nodded. Be careful, Cassidy. These people don't stop until you're gone. She grabbed her bag and left. I stood alone in the office, the key warm in my palm, and realized I'd just been handed the way in. Warren's Subaru idled at the curb, headlights cutting through the dark. I climbed in the brass key, clutched in my fist, and pulled the door shut. What did she give you? Warren asked. I opened my hand. The key glinted under the dome light. Locker 47, County Building Basement, Pamela's private storage. The code is 0826. Warren stared. How did she get this? She overheard Pamela on the phone, I said. Pamela told Donovan the evidence was in locker 47. Jenna copied the key from Pamela's purse last week when she came to the office. When Pamela came to your studio, I nodded. She was here this morning. Warren's eyes narrowed. Why, I closed my fist around the key again. To fire me. That morning, 9 hours earlier, I'd arrived at Morrison Architecture just before 9, my spare key still working my mind, still reeling from the night before. The fire alarm at the restaurant, Warren's warning, the envelope of cash. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the hours between midnight and dawn sitting on the floor of a Motel 6 in Gresham, staring at $3,400 in 20s and trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. By morning, I'd decided I'd go to the studio, Talk to Trevor. Show him the bank documents, the tablet signature scam, the pattern. Make him understand. But when I unlocked the front door, I knew immediately something was wrong. The lights were already on. Voices echoed from the conference room, low tense, too many people for this early on a Friday morning. I walked toward the sound. 12 of our employees sat around the long table, drafters, project managers, the intern we'd hired in June. Trevor stood at the head, arms crossed, face unreadable, and beside him, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit, stood Pamela Ashford. She looked up when I entered. Her expression didn't change. "Ms. Reeves, thank you for joining us." I froze in the doorway. "What's going on?" "Please sit down." "I'd rather stand." Pamela's mouth tightened. She opened a leather portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers. "This is an emergency personnel meeting. As of 8:45 this morning, Morrison Architecture has been made aware of significant financial irregularities in your business accounts." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" She slid a document across the table. I didn't move. One of the drafters, a woman named Kelly, picked it up, glanced at it, and looked at me with something between shock and pity. "That's a wire transfer authorization," Pamela said. "Dated August 14th. $200,000 transferred from your operating account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The authorization bears your electronic signature and was processed by First Bank of Oregon." "That's fake," I said. My voice sounded distant. "I never authorized that." "The bank has confirmed the transaction," Pamela continued as if I hadn't spoken. "Mr. Halstead contacted me this morning in my capacity as Deputy Director of Real Estate and Records for Multnomah County. Given the nature of the alleged fraud and its connection to county-filed business licenses, I've been asked to oversee the termination process." I looked at Trevor. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Trevor," I said, "you know me. You know I would never—" "Cassidy." His voice was quiet, defeated. "I saw the transfer logs. I spoke to the bank. I spoke to our accountant. The money is gone. Donovan forged my signature, effective immediately." Pamela interrupted, her voice cutting through mine like a blade. "Cassidy Reeves is terminated from Morrison Architecture for gross misconduct and embezzlement. All access codes have been changed. All county business licenses listing her as co-owner are being contested. Security will escort her from the premises." The room went silent. I looked around the table. Kelly wouldn't look at me. Neither would Marcus or the intern or any of the others I'd worked with for years. They just stared at the table at their hands, anywhere but my face. "You can't do this," I whispered. "It's already done," Pamela said. A security guard I didn't recognize appeared in the doorway, middle-aged, uncomfortable, holding a cardboard box. "Ms. Reeves," he said, "I need you to come with me." "Trevor." Trevor finally looked at me. His face was gray, tired. "I'm sorry, Cassidy. I have to protect the business." The guard stepped forward. "Ma'am." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table to grab Pamela by her perfect suit and make her admit what she was doing. But 12 people were watching. 12 people who would tell this story later, how Cassidy Reeves lost it, how she'd stolen $200,000, how she'd been dragged out by security. So I walked. The guard followed me to my desk. I grabbed my laptop, a framed photo of my mother, a coffee mug. He put them in the box. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the photo. The glass cracked. No one said goodbye. The guard walked me to the front door and held it open. I stepped out onto Southeast Morrison Street into the bright August morning, carrying a box of my life in my arms. A few people on the sidewalk turned to watch. A woman walking her dog, a guy on a bike, witnesses to my humiliation. I made it half a block before I had to set the box down and breathe. Now, sitting in Warren's car 11 hours later, the memory felt like something that had happened to someone else. "She fired you in front of your entire staff," Warren said quietly. "She wanted them to see it," I said. "She wanted witnesses. So when I try to fight this, when I tell people Donovan is stealing from me, they'll remember the day I got fired for embezzlement." Warren's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "She's systematically destroying your credibility. Every ally, every asset, every piece of your identity. It's working." He pulled away from the curb. We drove in silence for a few blocks, heading north toward the river. I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass and watched the city blur past. Then my stomach turned. Not nerves, not stress, something deeper. A wave of nausea so sudden and overwhelming I couldn't breathe. "Pull over," I gasped. Warren swerved into a gas station. I shoved the door open and stumbled out, barely making it to the restroom before I vomited. Once, twice, until there was nothing left. I leaned against the sink, gripping the cold porcelain, staring at my reflection in the fluorescent light. Pale, hollow-eyed, hair tangled. I looked like a stranger. And then I remembered. 2 weeks. I was 2 weeks late. I'd been so consumed with Donovan, with the fire alarm and the frozen accounts and the stolen loft, that I hadn't even noticed. My hand moved to my stomach. No, not now, not this. A knock on the door. "Cassidy." Warren's voice worried. "You okay?" I turned on the faucet, splashed cold water on my face. "Yeah, I'm fine, just stress." I dried my hands, took a breath, opened the door. Warren studied my face. "You don't look fine." "I will be," I lied. We got back in the car. Warren drove. I sat in silence, my hand resting on my stomach, the key to locker 47 heavy in my pocket. Tomorrow night, we'd break into Pamela's office. Tomorrow night, I'd find the proof. But right now, all I could think was I might be carrying the child of a man who wants me dead. We drove in silence. Warren kept glancing at me, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I stared out the window, my hand pressed flat against my stomach, trying not to think about what I already knew. After a few blocks, I said, "Can you take me to Walgreens?" Warren's eyes flicked toward me. "Now, please." He didn't ask why, just turned left on Burnside and pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour Walgreens 3 blocks later. The lights inside were harsh and fluorescent, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. "I'll wait here," Warren said quietly. I nodded and climbed out. The automatic doors slid open. The store was nearly empty, just a cashier scrolling through her phone and a guy in a hoodie buying energy drinks. I walked past the candy aisle, past the greeting cards, toward the back where the pharmacy section sat behind locked glass. The pregnancy tests were on the shelf beside the condoms. I grabbed 2 boxes, different brands, just to be sure, and carried them to the register. The cashier barely looked at me. Scanned the boxes. $18.42. I paid in cash from Warren's envelope. The restroom was at the back of the store, past the photo counter. I pushed the door open. One stall. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Graffiti scratched into the metal walls. The lock on the stall door was broken. I unwrapped the first test with shaking hands. The instructions were simple. Pee on the stick. Wait 3 minutes. 1 line means not pregnant. 2 lines means pregnant. I did what it said. Then I set the test on the edge of the sink, pulled out my phone, and set a timer for 3 minutes. While I waited, I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked like hell. Hair tangled, eyes red-rimmed, skin so pale I could see the veins in my neck. I looked like someone who'd lost everything, which I had. But if this test came back positive, I hadn't just lost everything. I was tied to Donovan forever. I tried to remember when my last period had been. Early July. Maybe I'd been so busy with work, so caught up in the honeymoon haze with Donovan, I hadn't been paying attention. Then the chaos started, the fire alarm, the frozen bank account, the stolen loft, and I'd stopped thinking about anything except survival. 2 weeks late. Maybe more. The timer beeped. I picked up the test. 2 pink lines. I stared at them, willing them to disappear, willing this to be wrong, but the lines didn't fade. They just sat there, clear and undeniable. Pregnant. 6 weeks, maybe. That would put conception right around our honeymoon, the cabin at Cannon Beach. The morning Donovan handed me the tablet and I signed away my bank account without reading a single word. I'd been pregnant for a month and a half and I hadn't even known. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall and sat on the dirty tile floor, the test still clutched in my hand, and I started to cry. Not quiet tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that echoed off the bathroom walls. This was Donovan's child, the child of a man who'd married me to steal everything I owned, a man who'd killed 8 women before me, a man whose mother had systematically destroyed my life in less than 48 hours. And now I was carrying his baby. If he found out, he'd use it against me. Custody battles, visitation rights, a legal tie that would bind me to him for the rest of my life, even if I managed to put him in prison. Or worse, he'd see the baby as a liability, another heir to eliminate, another loose end. I thought about options I didn't want to think about: abortion, adoption, disappearing, and never telling anyone. But even as the thoughts formed, I knew I couldn't. Because this baby, this tiny cluster of cells growing inside me, hadn't chosen Donovan as its father, hadn't chosen any of this, and neither had I. I pressed my hand flat against my stomach. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry you got stuck with us." But I wasn't going to let Donovan win, not this time. If I was going to bring a child into this world, I was damn sure going to make sure it had a future. A safe one. One where its father was behind bars and couldn't hurt anyone ever again. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, stood up, looked at myself in the mirror again. I didn't look like someone who'd lost everything anymore. I looked like someone who had everything to fight for. I shoved the test into my pocket, washed my hands, and walked out of the restroom. Warren was leaning against the hood of his car when I came out of the store. He straightened when he saw me, his face lined with worry. I stopped a few feet away from him, opened my mouth, closed it. "Cassidy," he said gently, "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between us. Warren didn't move for a long time. 10 seconds. 15. I watched his face cycle through shock, then grief, then something that looked like fury. "Does he know?" Warren asked finally. "No. He can't find out," Warren said, his voice low and urgent. "If he does, if he even suspects, he'll use it. Custody, child support. He'll have a legal claim on you for the rest of your life. Or worse, he'll see it as a liability and move up his timeline. You think he'd kill me while I'm pregnant?" "I think he's killed women for less," Warren said. "And if you die before the baby's born, he inherits everything as your widower. The baby never has to exist." I felt cold all over. "Then he's not going to find out," I said. "Not until he's in handcuffs." Warren studied my face. "What are you going to do?" "I'm keeping it," I said. The words came out stronger than I expected. "I'm keeping this baby, and I'm going to make sure it grows up knowing its father is in prison, that it's safe, that it never has to be afraid of him." Warren's expression softened. "Your father would be proud of you." My throat tightened. "I hope so." Warren pushed off the car. "Then we don't have time to waste. If you're going to protect that baby, we need proof. Tonight." "Tonight," I echoed. "I thought you said tomorrow night." "That was before," Warren said. "Before Donovan fired you. Before Pamela destroyed your reputation. Before this." He gestured toward my stomach. "The longer we wait, the more time Donovan has to figure out you're still in Portland, to track you down, to finish what he started. We go tonight. Now." I looked at him. "You think we're ready?" "No," Warren said honestly. "But I don't think we have a choice." I pulled the brass key from my pocket. "Locker 47, code 0826. "Okay," I said. "Let's go." We climbed into the car. Warren started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, heading east toward the river. Downtown Portland rose ahead of us, the skyline glittering against the black sky. Somewhere in that city, in a basement locker beneath the Multnomah County building, was the proof I needed. The ledger, the contracts, the names of 8 dead women. I rested my hand on my stomach. "We're going to end this," I whispered. "I promise." Warren didn't say anything, just drove faster. At midnight, we stood outside the county building. The service door stood before us. The Multnomah County building sat on Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, 5 stories of gray concrete and dark windows. During the day, it bustled with clerks and lawyers and people filing paperwork. At midnight, it was a tomb. Warren pulled a brass key from his pocket, old, worn, smooth at the edges. "I did contract work for the county 20 years ago," he said quietly. "Private security assessments. They never asked for the keys back." He slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click. The service door opened into a basement corridor, concrete walls, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of mildew and old paint. Warren moved quickly, and I followed, my heart hammering so loud I was sure someone would hear it. We found the stairwell at the end of the hall. No elevator, too much noise, too much risk. We climbed. 1 flight, 2, 3. The stairs were steep, the concrete steps worn smooth in the centers. Emergency exit signs cast everything in a sickly green glow. I counted the floors by the numbers stenciled on each landing. 4, 5. Warren stopped at the 5th floor door, pressed his ear against it, listened. Silence. He pushed it open slowly. The hallway beyond was dark except for the exit signs. Offices lined both sides, frosted glass doors with names and titles etched in black. Deputy Director of this. Assistant Director of that. The machinery of county government sleeping. Warren pointed to the far end of the hall. A security camera hung in the corner, angled toward the elevators. "I broke that 6 months ago," he whispered. "County hasn't fixed it yet. Budget cuts." We moved down the hallway, staying close to the wall. My footsteps sounded too loud. My breathing sounded too loud. Everything sounded too loud. Room 512 sat at the end of the corridor. A brass plaque beside the door read, "Pamela Ashford, Deputy Director, Real Estate and Records Division." Warren knelt in front of the lock and pulled a thin metal tool from his jacket. 30 seconds later, the lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside the office was exactly as Warren had described. A large oak desk, a leather chair, file cabinets along one wall all locked. A framed county seal hung above the desk. The window overlooked Southeast Hawthorne, dark and empty below. Warren closed the door behind us and locked it. Then he moved to the wall opposite the desk and started examining the framed photographs hanging there. "Help me," he said. I joined him. Most of the photos were official Pamela shaking hands with the mayor Pamela at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, Pamela receiving some kind of award. But one was different. A small photo in a silver frame tucked in the corner. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, grinning at the camera with a gap-toothed smile. Donovan. Warren lifted the frame off the wall. Behind it, embedded in the plaster, was a small rectangular panel, brushed steel, a digital keypad glowing faintly in the dark. Safe model ZX940. Warren set the photo on the desk and stared at the keypad. 4 blank digits waited to be entered. "Do you know the code?" I whispered. "I know it's 4 digits, Warren said. "Jenna's note said 0826, but I want to try something first." He pressed 01865. The screen flashed red, a soft beep, "Incorrect code." "Multnomah County was founded in 1854, Warren muttered. "Worth a shot." He tried again, 1999. Red flash, beep, "Incorrect code." "Pamela's husband died in 1999, Warren said. "She might have used that." "Or," I said, pulling Jenna's note from my pocket, "we could just use the code Jenna gave us." Warren looked at me, then nodded. I stepped forward and pressed 0826. The screen turned green. A soft mechanical click echoed through the office. The safe door swung open. Inside the space was small but packed. Warren pulled out a flashlight and shone it into the safe. A leather-bound ledger sat on the top shelf, gray-worn, the kind of book that looked like it had been handled 1,000 times. Beneath it, a stack of 9 manila envelopes, each one labeled with initials in black marker. MCRMSBBKDP, HMCDNFCR. Beside the envelopes, a black USB drive with a white label, FBI 2023. And at the bottom, a thick manila folder stamped with a case number, FB Investigation OR-2023-4418 Money Laundering, Pamela Ashford. Warren reached in and pulled everything out, his hands moving fast. He shoved the USB and the FBI folder into his backpack, then the envelopes, then the ledger. "What's in the envelopes?" I whispered. "I don't know," Warren said. "But if Pamela kept them in a safe, they're important." He zipped the backpack shut and checked his watch. 12:27 a.m. "Security guard does his rounds at 12:30, Warren said. "We have 3 minutes to get out of this building." I heard it then. Footsteps, faint but unmistakable, coming from the stairwell at the end of the hall. Warren's head snapped toward the door. "He's early. What do? We go." Warren slung the backpack over his shoulder and moved to the office door. He cracked it open, peered out into the hallway. The footsteps were closer now, heavy boots on concrete. A flashlight beam swept across the far end of the corridor. "Stay close," Warren whispered. We slipped out of the office. Warren closed the door behind us, careful not to make a sound. The footsteps were coming up the stairwell maybe 20 seconds away. We moved in the opposite direction toward the far stairwell on the other side of the building. My legs felt like rubber. My breath came in short, shallow gasps. The pregnancy test was still in my pocket, pressed against my hip, a reminder of everything I had to lose. The footsteps reached the 5th floor. We reached the far stairwell. Warren pushed the door open. We slipped inside. The door closed behind us with a soft click, and we stood in the dark listening. The security guard's footsteps moved down the hallway. Slow, methodical. The beam of his flashlight swept across the frosted glass of the office doors. Then the footsteps stopped. Right outside room 512. I held my breath. Warren's hand found mine in the dark. Squeezed once. The doorknob to Pamela's office rattled. The guard was checking it, testing the lock. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the footsteps started again, moving away, fading. Warren exhaled. "Let's go." We descended the stairs as fast as we dared, down 5 flights, through the basement corridor, out the service door into the cool night air. We didn't stop running until we reached Warren's car 2 blocks away. Warren threw the backpack into the back seat. I climbed in my hands, still shaking. He started the engine and pulled away from the curb headlights, cutting through the empty streets. "We did it," I whispered. Warren didn't answer, just drove. In the back seat, the gray leather ledger sat half open its pages, visible in the passing streetlights. And on the first page, written in neat black ink, was a name I recognized. Melissa Crane, 2008, OD suicide, $180,000. Warren pulled into an alley 2 blocks from the county building and killed the engine. The streetlights didn't reach us here, just darkness and the faint glow of the dashboard clock, 12:10 a.m. He reached into the back seat and pulled out the backpack, unzipped it. The gray leather ledger sat on top, heavy, and worn the kind of book that had been opened and closed 1,000 times. Warren set it on his lap and turned on the dome light. I leaned closer as he opened the cover. The first page was written in neat black ink, the handwriting precise and controlled. At the top, a single name, Melissa Crane. Beneath it, a column of details. Year 2008. Method overdose ruled suicide. Assets acquired $180,000. Life insurance savings account. Transfer date, March 14th, 2008. County file closed. March 22nd, 2008. Warren's hand trembled as he turned the page. Rachel Mont. Year 2011. Method fall ruled accidental staircase. Assets acquired $340,000 property retirement fund. Transfer date, June 2nd, 2011. County file closed. June 18th, 2011. Another page. Sarah Bennett. Year 2015. Method car accident brake failure. Highway 26. Assets acquired $290,000 vehicle settlement. Home equity transfer date, October 9th, 2015. County file closed, October 30th, 2015. Warren kept turning pages. His voice was barely a whisper as he read the names aloud. Brenda Kofi, 2017. Drowning, $410,000. Diana Petrova, 2018. Gas leak, $520,000. Hannah Moss, 2019. Hiking fall, $480,000. I felt sick. Each page was a person, a life. Someone who'd trusted Donovan the way I had. Someone who'd signed documents they didn't read, who'd believed his lies, who died thinking it was their fault. Warren turned another page. Natalie Fletcher. My breath caught. Year 2021. Method drowning Willamette River. Assets acquired $310,000 trust fund condo sale. Transfer date, February 11th, 2022. County file closed. February 20th, 2022. Warren stared at his daughter's name. His jaw worked. His hands shook. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He didn't answer, just turned the page. Claire Delaney. Year 2023. Method overdose ruled accidental assets, acquired $670,000. Inheritance business liquidation. Transfer date, November 3rd, 2023. County file closed, November 15th, 2023. 8 women, 16 years, over $3 million. Warren turned to the next page. It was blank except for a single entry written in the same precise handwriting. C.R. Cassidy Reeves. Loft 920. Northwest Lovejoy 600, $80,000. Studio share. Morrison Architecture, $425,000. Total assets, $1,105,000. Scheduled. August 17th, 2024. I stared at the words. Today. August 17th. The date was today. My hand moved to my stomach. Pregnant. If Donovan killed me now, he'd inherit everything as my widower. The loft, the studio, everything. And the baby would never exist. You're the most valuable, Warren said quietly. That's why they moved so fast. I couldn't speak. Warren closed the ledger and reached into the backpack again. This time he pulled out the stack of manila envelopes. 9 of them, each one labeled with initials in black marker. He opened the first one. A Polaroid photograph slid out. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. The woman in the photo was lying on her back, eyes closed, skin so pale it was almost blue. Her hair was wet dark against the white pillow beneath her head. There was something peaceful about her expression, like she was sleeping. But she wasn't sleeping. Natalie, Warren said. His voice broke. He set the photo down and opened the next envelope. Another Polaroid. A woman with blonde hair, her lips faintly blue, lying on a bathroom floor. A pill bottle on its side beside her hand. Claire Delaney, Warren said. He opened another, and another. Each envelope held a photo. Each photo showed a woman who would never wake up. When he reached the 9th envelope, he stopped. The envelope was labeled CR, date TBD. It was empty. Warren turned the envelope over. On the back, written in neat handwriting, was a note. D must never betray me. These photos are my leverage. If he does, I send them to the FBIPA. I stared at the words. She kept evidence of the murders. Insurance, Warren said, against Donovan. If he ever turned on her, if he ever tried to implicate her, she'd have proof he was the one who killed them. She's been controlling him with this for 16 years. That's sick. That's Pamela. Warren's face was hard. She doesn't love him. She owns him. He put the photos back into the envelopes, his hands shaking. Then he pulled out the USB drive and the FBI folder, set them on the dashboard. This is everything, he said. The ledger, the photos, the federal investigation file, it's enough to put them both away for life. Then why do you look worried? Warren reached into the backpack one more time, pulled out a thin manila folder I hadn't noticed before. The tab was labeled in the same handwriting. CR, Final Stage, Timeline. He opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, dated today, August 17th, 2024. At the top in bold letters, Cassidy Reeves, elimination schedule. I leaned closer. Warren held the page under the dome light so I could read it. Phase 1. Dinner, 7 to 9 p.m. The Pearl Room, establish alibi. Subject will be visibly present with D public witnesses. Phase 2. Sedation 8:15. PM Rohypnol 2 milligrams administered via wine. S restaurant manager will deliver. Phase 3. Transport 10:30 p.m. Subject unconscious. Drive to Columbia River Gorge. Angels Rest Trailhead. Phase 4. Execution. 11:30 p.m. Carry subject to cliff edge. 200 feet drop. Push. Ensure no defensive wounds. Phase 5. Report morning, August 18th. D reports subject missing. Search begins. Body discovered by 10 a.m. Ruled accidental fall due to intoxication. I couldn't breathe. They're going to kill me tonight, I whispered. Warren's face was pale. We have 19 hours. What do we do? Warren looked at the page again, at the timeline, at the name S, restaurant manager. Silas, he said. Donovan's brother. He works at the Pearl Room. He's been helping with the sedation. I thought about the fire alarm, the chaos, Warren sliding the envelope across the table while Donovan was on the phone. That's why you warned me at the restaurant, I said. You knew that was the night. Warren nodded. I've been watching Donovan for months. I saw him make the reservation. I knew what it meant, but I got away. You did, Warren said, which means they'll move to Plan B. What's Plan B? Warren turned the page over. On the back in the same typed font. Contingency, if subject evades, Phase 1, accelerate timeline. Public arrest for embezzlement, county warrant. Psychiatric hold, Oregon State Hospital. Eliminate during transport or within facility. Frame as suicide. My hands went cold. They're going to have me arrested, I said. Or committed, Warren said, just like they did to me. I looked at the ledger, at the photos, at the timeline. What do we do? I whispered. Warren started the engine. We go public, he said, before they can. Hold up, I'm about to show you the elimination schedule. Yes, they actually wrote down a timeline to murder me. Comment, reveal it if you're still invested in this story. Heads up, the next section contains some fictionalized scenarios for educational purposes. Not your thing? You can leave now, but if you stay, you'll understand how predators think. Warren didn't start the engine. He sat there staring at the timeline in his hands, and I watched the blood drain from his face. Read it again, I said. I need to understand exactly what they planned. He turned on the dome light and held the paper steady. Cassidy Reeves, elimination schedule date. August 15th, 2024. Phase 1. Dinner 7 to 9 p.m. The Pearl Room establish alibi. Subject will be visibly present with D in public location. Minimum 6 witnesses required. Phase 2. Sedation 8:15 p.m. Agent S. Silas Ashford, restaurant manager, will deliver wine to subject's table. Rohypnol 2 milligrams pre-dissolved in Pinot Noir. Subject will exhibit symptoms within 12 to 15 minutes, drowsiness, confusion loss, of motor control. D will assist subject to vehicle under guise of she's had too much to drink. Phase 3. Transport 10 o'clock to 10:30 p.m. Drive to Columbia River Gorge. Parking lot. Angels Rest Trailhead. GPS 45.5764 degrees, north 122.1231 degrees west. No surveillance cameras. Minimal traffic after 9 p.m. Phase 4. Staging 10:30 to 11:15 p.m. carry. Subject 0.4 miles up trail. To overlook point elevation, gain 200 feet. Subject will be semi-conscious but unable to resist. Position subject at cliff edge. Phase 5. Execution, 11:30 p.m. Push subject. Backward off cliff, 200-foot drop to rocky terrain below. Ensure fall appears accidental. No defensive wounds, no signs of struggle. Rohypnol metabolizes within 12 hours. Toxicology unlikely to detect. Phase 6. Discovery morning. August 16th, D reports subject missing at 7 a.m. Search party organized by 9 a.m. Body discovered by 10:30 a.m. County Medical Examiner, PA. Contact rules accidental death due to intoxication and loss of footing. Case closed within 48 hours. I felt cold all over. They planned every detail, down to the minute, Warren said. His voice was flat. Silas was supposed to drug you. Donovan would have carried you up that trail while you were barely conscious, and then he'd push you off a cliff and call it an accident. But I left, I said. The fire alarm went off at 8:30. I ran. Warren nodded slowly. The alarm saved your life. By the time Donovan realized you were gone, Phase 2 had failed. He couldn't sedate you, couldn't get you to the gorge. Was it you? I asked. Did you pull the alarm? Warren looked at me, didn't answer. Warren, it doesn't matter now, he said. What matters is that Plan A failed, so they activated Plan B. He flipped to the next page. Plan B, contingency protocol activated. August 15th, 2024 9. PM subject evaded Phase 1. Alternative elimination strategy required. Step 1. Financial fraud narrative. Fabricate wire transfer $200,000 from Morrison Architecture account to offshore Cayman Islands account. Forge subject's electronic signature. Deliver fabricated bank report to Trevor Halstead business partner via encrypted email. Halstead will believe subject embezzled funds and will cooperate with investigation. Step 2. Public reputation destruction utilize. PIA Deputy Director Multnomah County 2. Issue termination notice to subject grounds embezzlement. Coordinate public humiliation witnesses. 12 employees. Morrison Architecture File, Fraudulent Property Transfer Documents. Subject's loft $680,000. Disseminate narrative subject is unstable, financially desperate. Potential flight risk. Step 3. Arrest and detention. Prepare arrest warrant via contact at District Attorney's Office. Judge Patricia Coleman, Multnomah County Circuit Court. Charges embezzlement $200,000, wire fraud, forgery. Arrest scheduled August 17, 2024, 6 a.m. Subject will be detained at Multnomah County Jail, pending arraignment. Step 4. Psychiatric evaluation D. A contact will request 72-hour psychiatric hold, Oregon Revised Statutes 426.005. Subject transferred to Oregon State Hospital under deputy escort. Elimination window during transport staged vehicle accident. OR within facility staged suicide by hanging, overdose, or fall. Step 5. Asset transfer upon subject's death. All assets transferred to D surviving spouse. Estimated timeline 30 days post-death. Total acquisition $1,105,000. I couldn't breathe. They're going to have me arrested at 6 in the morning. Warren checked his watch. In 5.5 hours. And then kill me in custody. Just like they almost did to me, Warren said. Except I survived 9 months in that hospital. You won't. They'll make sure of it. I stared at the paper, at the cold clinical language, at the timeline that treated my murder like a business transaction. There's more, Warren said quietly. He reached into the backpack and pulled out another folder. This one was thinner. The tab read BW, Prospect Number 11. He opened it. Inside was a single-page dossier. Brooke Winters, age 38. Occupation spa owner. Winters Wellness. 3 locations. Pearl District, Alberta Arts. Hawthorne net worth. $1,200,000 business assets. Residential property. Investment portfolio, marital status, widowed 6 months, vulnerability, profile, recent loss, isolated social network, financially independent, no children, seeks companionship, contact timeline. First approach scheduled August 31st, 2024, 14 days post-CR closure. Beneath the dossier was a printed email draft. Subject, a stranger's kindness. Hi, Brooke. I know this is unusual, but I saw you at your spa last week and felt compelled to reach out. I'm recently widowed myself, and I've been struggling to find people who understand what that loss feels like. Would you be open to coffee sometime? No pressure, just a conversation between 2 people who've been through something difficult. Warmly, Donovan. I felt sick. He's already planning the next one, I whispered. 2 weeks, Warren said. 2 weeks after you're dead, he'll send that email, and Brooke Winters will think she's met someone who understands her grief. And 6 months later, she'll be dead too. I looked at the timeline. At Brooke's name. At the photograph clipped to her file, a woman with dark hair and a warm smile, standing in front of a spa with a grand opening banner behind her. She had no idea. We have to stop him, I said. We will, Warren said, but we have to move fast. If you're arrested at 6 a.m., this is over. Pamela will bury the evidence. Donovan will disappear, and Brooke will be next. What do we do? Warren started the engine. We go public today, before they can execute Plan B. How? There's a city council meeting this afternoon, Warren said. Open forum. Anyone can speak. It's recorded. Broadcast live online. If you get up there and show them the ledger, the photos, the timeline, if you expose Donovan and Pamela in front of cameras and witnesses, they can't touch you. Too many people will know. They'll arrest me the second I walk into City Hall. Not if we bring the FBI, Warren said. I still have a contact there, Agent Rebecca Torres. She's been working the money laundering case for 18 months. If I tell her we have the evidence, the ledger, the photos, the timeline, she'll come. She'll protect you. I looked at him. You think she'll believe us? She will when she sees what's in that backpack. A sound, sharp, sudden, cut through the silence. Footsteps, close, on the pavement outside the car. Warren's hand froze on the ignition. We both turned toward the sound. A figure moved past the mouth of the alley. Dark jacket. Flashlight beam sweeping across the ground. The security guard. Warren's eyes met mine. "He's doing a perimeter check," he whispered. "Stay still." The footsteps slowed, stopped. The flashlight beam swung toward our car. I held my breath. The beam swept across the rear window, paused, moved on. The footsteps resumed, fading. Warren exhaled. "We need to go, now." He pulled out of the alley without turning on the headlights. We drove 2 blocks in darkness before he flipped them on and accelerated onto Hawthorne Boulevard. "City Hall," I said. "This afternoon. We expose them." Warren nodded. 5 p.m. Open forum. Be ready." I looked down at the backpack in my lap, at the ledger, at Brooke Winter's file. "I'll be ready," I said. Warren accelerated onto Hawthorne, the county building, shrinking in the rearview mirror. 2 blocks. 3. I started to breathe again. Then headlights flared behind us. "Warren!" "I see them. 2 cars. Close. Too close." The lead vehicle, a silver Audi, pulled alongside us. I saw the driver's face in the streetlight. Donovan. The second car, a black sedan, swerved in front of us, brakes screaming. Warren yanked the wheel, but we were boxed in. The Subaru lurched to a stop, tires skidding on wet pavement. "Out of the car," Donovan's voice, calm, almost bored. Warren's hand moved toward the ignition. "Hold on!" The passenger door flew open. Hands grabbed me, rough, professional. I tried to fight, but someone twisted my arm behind my back and pain shot through my shoulder. "Don't," a voice said. Not Donovan, someone else. I was yanked out of the car and shoved against the hood. The asphalt was cold under my cheek. My vision swam. 2 security guards, private, not county, wearing black jackets with no badges, hauled Warren out of the driver's side. He didn't resist. Just let them pin him against the Subaru, hands zip-tied behind his back. Then Trevor stepped out of the black sedan. He looked at me the way you'd look at a stranger, like he didn't know me at all. "Trevor," I gasped. "Please." I called them. Trevor said. His voice was flat, empty. "You broke into a government building, Cassidy. I didn't have a choice." "He's lying to you." "Stop." Trevor held up his phone. "I have the emails, the bank reports, everything." Donovan walked over, hands in his pockets, perfectly composed. He looked at me like I was a problem he'd already solved. "Show her," he said to Trevor. Trevor's fingers moved across the screen. He turned the phone toward me. An email. Subject line, First Bank fraud alert. Immediate action required. I scanned the text. My name. The studio account. A wire transfer $200,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Authorization signature mine. "That's fake," I said. "Trevor, that's not real." "The bank confirmed it," Trevor said. "I called them this afternoon. The money's gone." "Because Donovan stole it." I was shouting now, my voice raw. "He forged my signature just like he forged the deed to my loft, just like he forged the bank documents." Trevor scrolled to another email, and this: "Loan application number 2847. Approved, amount $500,000. Disbursed to Morrison Architecture application. Submitted August 16, 2024, 11:52 p.m. Authorized by Trevor Halstead and Cassidy Reeves, co-signers." "I never signed that," I whispered. "Your digital signature is on the application," Trevor said. "The bank has a timestamp, 11:52 last night." "That's when I stopped. 11:52. I'd been in Warren's car reading the gray ledger. Donovan must have submitted the application remotely using a signature he'd captured weeks ago. "It's fraud," I said desperately. "Trevor, he's stealing from you too. Check your account. Check the ownership records. He's transferring your shares." "Enough." Donovan's voice cut through mine like a blade. He stepped closer and I saw the backpack in his hand. Warren's backpack. The ledger, the photos, the USB, everything. "You should have run when you had the chance," Donovan said. He unzipped the backpack and pulled out the gray leather ledger, held it up so I could see it. This is nothing." "Trevor, look at it," I shouted. "It's a record of every woman he's killed, 8 of them." "Trevor, 8 women." Donovan opened the ledger, flipped to the first page. "Melissa Crane, 2008, OD suicide, $180,000. For a moment, Trevor's expression flickered. Confusion. Doubt. Then Donovan ripped the page out. Tore it in half, let the pieces fall to the wet pavement. No. I lunged toward him, but the guard's hand clamped down on my shoulder, holding me in place. Donovan turned another page. Rachel Mont ripped it out, tore it, dropped it. Another page. Natalie Fletcher. That's Warren's daughter, I choked out. She died in 2021. He killed her, Trevor. He pushed her into the river and made it look like an accident. Donovan ripped out Natalie's page. Let the pieces scatter in the wind. Warren made a sound, low, broken animal. The guard shoved him harder against the car. Stop it, I screamed. Donovan closed what was left of the ledger and tucked it under his arm. Then he looked at Trevor. She broke into a county building tonight, Donovan said calmly. Stole confidential records. Her fingerprints are all over my mother's office. The security footage will show her and this man. He gestured toward Warren. Breaking and entering. That's a felony. Trevor looked at me, then at Warren, then at the torn pages on the ground. I don't understand, Trevor said quietly. You don't have to, Donovan said. The DA's office will handle it from here. He turned to the guards. Take them. Where? One of the guards asked. Donovan pulled out his phone, typed something. I'm texting you an address. It's a storage facility on Southeast 82nd, Unit 47. Lock them in separate units. I'll contact the DA in the morning and arrange transport to county jail. The guard nodded. Wait, Trevor's voice was uncertain now. You're not taking them to the police. The DA wants to question them first, Donovan said smoothly. Off the record. Make sure we have everything we need for the arrest. That's not legal. It's how these things work, Trevor. Donovan's tone was patient, patronizing. Trust me, I've been through this before with my mother's office, county procedure. Trevor hesitated, then nodded. I wanted to scream, wanted to tell him Donovan was lying, that there was no DA involved, that we'd be dead by morning. But the guard's hand was over my mouth now, and I couldn't make a sound. Warren's eyes met mine across the hood of the car. I'm sorry, his expression said. The guards dragged us toward the black sedan, shoved Warren into the trunk, shoved me into the backseat hands, zip-tied a hood pulled over my head. The last thing I heard was Donovan's voice. Thank you, Trevor. I know this wasn't easy. Just make sure she gets help, Trevor said. She's not well. The car door slammed shut. The engine started, and we drove. I don't know how long we were in that car. An hour, maybe. The hood over my head smelled like oil and sweat. My wrists ached where the zip ties cut into my skin. My stomach turned with every sharp turn, every sudden stop. When the car finally stopped, rough hands pulled me out. I stumbled blind and someone shoved me forward. I heard a metal door roll open, concrete under my feet, then another shove and I fell. The hood was ripped off. I was in a storage unit, 10 feet by 10 feet, bare concrete walls, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, no windows, no furniture, just cold and empty space. The door rolled shut. A lock clicked, and I was alone. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours. The bulb flickered and went out, and the darkness was absolute. 7 hours passed before I heard footsteps again. 7 hours in the dark changes you. I sat on the concrete floor of the storage unit, my back against the cold metal wall, and tried not to think about the baby. Tried not to think about Warren locked in some other unit, maybe already dead. Tried not to think about Donovan ripping pages out of the ledger, erasing 8 women like they'd never existed. I thought about my father instead. I was 4 when he died. I don't remember his face. I remember his voice. Deep and steady, the kind of voice that made you believe everything would be okay even when it wasn't. When you're trapped, he'd said once, I don't even remember the context, just the words find the crack. There's always a way out. You just have to look. I pulled out my phone. The screen lit up the darkness, 7:03 a.m., 12% battery, no signal. I searched my pockets. The guards had taken my keys, my wallet, but they'd missed the small things. A pen clipped to my jacket pocket, a keychain with a tiny LED light, and wedged deep in the inner lining of my jacket where I'd shoved it hours ago, a small black USB drive. Warren had given it to me in the car right before we'd gone into the county building. Insurance, he'd said. I made a backup of everything. The ledger, the photos, the FBI file. If something happens to me, you'll still have proof. I held the USB in my palm, the plastic warm from my body heat. Evidence. Not all of it. Donovan had the original ledger, the physical photos, but enough. Scanned pages. Digital copies. Proof that couldn't be torn apart and scattered in the wind. The darkness pressed in. I turned on the keychain light, a weak beam, barely enough to see my hands. The bulb overhead had burned out hours ago, or maybe someone had unscrewed it. Either way, I was alone in the pitch black and no one was coming to help me. Except, my phone buzzed. I nearly dropped it. The screen lit up. 1 bar of signal. Faint flickering, but there. A text message. Timestamp 6:50 a.m. Unknown number. I opened it. Cassidy, this is Silas. Donovan's brother. I'm sorry, I helped him kill Natalie. I can't do this anymore. Locker 47. Code 0826. The photos are still there. Pamela only took the ledger. Meet me at City Hall Forum 5 p.m. today. I'll testify. S.A. I read it twice. 3 times. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Silas Ashford, Donovan's younger brother. The restaurant manager at the Pearl Room. The one who was supposed to drug me that night. He'd helped kill Natalie, Warren's daughter. He'd watched Donovan push her into the Willamette River and said nothing for 3 years. And now he wanted to testify. I didn't know whether to trust him. I didn't know if this was another trap. But the message was clear. The Polaroid photos were still in Locker 47. Pamela had taken the ledger, but she'd left the evidence behind. Maybe she didn't know about the locker. Maybe Donovan kept it secret from her. Either way, the photos were still there. And if I could get to them. The door rolled open. Daylight flooded the storage unit, blinding after 7 hours of darkness. I threw up my hand, squinting. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. Not Donovan, not the guards from last night. Someone else. Younger. Confused. Miss, the voice said. Male uncertain. You can't be in here. This unit's supposed to be empty. I blinked my eyes, adjusting. A security guard? Early 20s, maybe. Wearing a different uniform than the men who'd locked me in. A daytime shift. He didn't know. He had no idea. I'm sorry, I said, my voice hoarse from hours of silence. I was doing inventory last night. I must have gotten locked in. The guard frowned. Inventory? We don't have any inventory scheduled for this unit. I work for the owner, I lied. I was checking the space. The door must have jammed. He looked at me, disheveled, exhausted, but not dangerous. Just someone who'd had a bad night. You should talk to the office, he said finally. But yeah, the building's opening in half an hour. You need to clear out. Thank you, I whispered. I stumbled past him into the daylight. The air outside was cool and clean, and I breathed it in like I'd been drowning. The guard watched me go, still confused, but he didn't stop me. I walked to the edge of the parking lot and checked my phone. 8:07 a.m. 1 bar of signal, now steady. I tried calling Warren, straight to voicemail. I tried again, nothing. My chest tightened. He was still out there somewhere, still locked up. Or worse. I dialed Jenna. She picked up on the second ring. Cassidy. Her voice was tight with worry. Where are you? I've been trying to reach you all night. I'm at a storage facility on Southeast 82nd. I said. Can you come get me? Are you okay? No, I said, but I will be. Just please hurry. I'm leaving now. 10 minutes. I hung up and sat down on the curb, my legs too weak to hold me. The sun was rising over the industrial buildings, casting long shadows across the asphalt. Somewhere in this city, Donovan was destroying evidence. Somewhere Warren was still trapped. Somewhere Trevor was waking up, still believing I was the criminal. But I had the USB drive. I had Silas's message. And I had 7 hours until the forum. 7 hours to print the evidence. 7 hours to contact the FBI. 7 hours to make sure that when I stood up in that City Hall auditorium, I had everything I needed to bury Donovan Ashford and his mother once and for all. Jenna's car pulled up a silver Honda, the same one I'd seen parked outside the studio 100 times. She jumped out, ran to me, pulled me into a hug. What happened? She whispered. I held up the USB drive. This is everything. The ledger, the photos, all of it. I need to print it. All of it, and I need to get to City Hall by 5. Jenna pulled back, looked at me. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell the truth, I said, in front of everyone, on camera, where Donovan and Pamela can't stop me. Jenna nodded. Then let's go. We climbed into the car. She started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, heading west toward downtown. I checked my phone. 8:14 a.m. I had 6 hours and 46 minutes. It would have to be enough. Morning came fast. By 8 o'clock, Jenna and I were standing outside a FedEx office on West Burnside, the backup USB drive clutched in my hand like a grenade. I'd barely slept. My phone battery hovered at 9%. But I had something Donovan didn't know. I had a full digital copy of the Gray Ledger 9 Polaroid scans, the CR murder schedule, and the FBI money laundering file. Inside, the smell of toner and paper filled the air. A young clerk named Miguel helped us connect the USB to a workstation. I opened the folder. 50 pages 8. Victim profiles. The blank CR entry. The timeline. The insurance note from Pamela. And 2 high-resolution Polaroid scans, Natalie Fletcher's photo with a visible thumbprint on the white border, and Claire Delaney's image with a handwritten note on the back. Dee pushed her August 12, 2023 PA. 50 copies, I said, color, double-sided. Miguel nodded. Give me 20 minutes. While the machine hummed, I opened my laptop and drafted an email. Jenna stood beside me, arms crossed, watching the street through the window. 2 tips at FBI.gov. Subject urgent, serial murder evidence. Donovan Ashford and Pamela Ashford sent August 17th, 2024, 8:47 a.m. Agent Torres. My name is Cassidy Reeves. I am the intended 10th victim of a serial murder scheme operated by Donovan Ashford, D.O.B., August 26, 1982, and his mother, Pamela Ashford, Deputy Director of Multnomah County Real Estate and Records. Attached are 2 critical Polaroid photographs. 1. Natalie Fletcher. Victim number 8 died. February 9, 2022. Donovan's thumbprint visible on photo border. 2. Claire Delaney. Victim number 9 died August 12, 2023. Handwritten note on reverse. D pushed her August 12, 2023 PA. I have a complete ledger documenting 8 murders 2008 to 2023 with a combined asset theft of $3.2 million. I also possess FBI file number OR-2023-4418 linking Pamela to money laundering. I'm scheduled to be murdered today, August 17, 2024. A public forum will take place at Portland City Hall at 5 p.m. Please respond urgently. Cassidy Reeves. I attached both Polaroid scans and hit send. 10 seconds later, an auto reply appeared. RE case number OR-2024-8833 opened. Assigned to Special Agent Rebecca Torres. Response within 24 to 48 hours. Jenna squeezed my shoulder. It's done. They have it. I exhaled. For the first time in 2 days, I felt like I wasn't alone. At 10 o'clock, as Miguel handed me 2 boxes of printed evidence, the door chimed. I looked up. Trevor Halstead stood in the doorway holding a folder and a phone. His face was pale, his tie loose. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Cassidy, he said quietly. Jenna stepped between us. You turned her in yesterday. Why are you here? Trevor raised both hands. Because I was wrong, and I need to show you something. He opened the folder and pulled out a printed email. From First Bank Business Services to Trevor Halstead subject. Loan approval confirmation. Account number 2847. Date August 16th, 2024, 11:52 p.m. Dear Mr. Halstead, your loan application for $500,000 has been approved and disbursed to recipient Ashford Holdings, LLC, account number 90347-AH, Purpose Commercial Real Estate Acquisition. A secondary transfer of 30% ownership shares in Morrison Architecture Studio value $425,000 was executed at 11:58 p.m. on August 16th, 2024 to the same account. Thank you for your business. Trevor's voice shook. I never applied for that loan. I never authorized that transfer. Donovan hacked my account. He forged my digital signature the same way he forged yours. I stared at the paper. The same night Donovan locked me in that storage unit, he'd stolen $500,000 and a third of Trevor's business. I'm sorry, Trevor said. I believed him. I thought you'd betrayed me. But when I saw this email this morning, I checked my accounts. Everything he told me was fake. The wire transfer to the Cayman Islands, fake. The embezzlement report, fake. He set us both up. Jenna looked at me. I looked at Trevor. I want to help, he said. I've already called my lawyer. He's working on getting Warren out of the psych hold right now, and I'm coming with you to that forum. I nodded slowly. Then we go together. By 2 o'clock, Trevor's lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named David Kane, had secured Warren's release from Oregon State Hospital. Pamela's 72-hour psychiatric hold had been overturned on grounds of false pretenses and lack of medical evidence. Warren walked out the front door at 2:14 p.m., thinner and angrier than I'd ever seen him. Trevor drove him straight to City Hall. At 4 o'clock, the four of us stood on the stone steps outside Portland City Hall, me, Warren, Trevor, and Jenna. We had 2 boxes of printed evidence, a laptop, a portable projector, and 50 copies of The Truth. Warren opened one box and thumbed through the pages. This is everything. The ledger, the photos, the timeline, the FBI file. If we walk in there and present this, there's no going back. I know, I said. Trevor handed me a manila envelope. Bank records, loan fraud, forged signatures, it's all here. My phone buzzed. From Agent Rebecca Torres text. Received your evidence. En route to City Hall. Do not approach suspects until we arrive. RT. I showed the screen to Warren. He smiled for the first time in 2 days. They're coming, he said. Jenna checked her watch. 1 hour until the forum starts. I looked up at the building, the tall columns, the American flag snapping in the wind. The bronze doors that led to the second-floor auditorium where Pamela Ashford had hosted real estate forums for 15 years. Today, we were going to end it. Together, we climbed the steps. 5 o'clock sharp. Portland City Hall. The forum on county real estate transparency had begun. The auditorium was packed close to 200 people crammed into wooden benches and folding chairs. Reporters from the Oregonian and Oregon Live sat in the front rows, cameras ready. Local attorneys, property owners, and curious citizens filled the rest. The air smelled like old carpet and fresh coffee from the lobby carts outside. On the stage behind a long table draped in navy cloth sat Pamela Ashford. She wore a charcoal blazer, pearl earrings, and the same cold smile I'd seen outside my loft 2 days ago. A banner behind her read, Multnomah County, Transparency Initiative 2024. In the front row, Donovan sat with his legs crossed, hands folded in his lap, looking like a man who'd already won. I stood in the back with Warren, Trevor, and Jenna. My laptop bag hung heavy on my shoulder. My hands were shaking. Pamela's voice echoed through the room. And that is why this county is committed to ethical oversight, public accountability, and protecting the rights of property owners. We have nothing to hide. A few people clapped politely. Warren leaned close. Wait for the Q&A. I nodded. At 5:20, Pamela adjusted her microphone. Now, if anyone in the audience has questions, please raise your hand. I didn't raise my hand. I stood up and walked straight down the center aisle. Heads turned. A reporter lifted a camera. Pamela's smile flickered. I climbed the side steps onto the stage. A security guard moved toward me, but I was faster. I grabbed the microphone on the podium before anyone could stop me. I have a question, I said. My voice rang through the speakers sharp and clear. How many women have you and your son murdered to steal their assets? The room went dead silent. Pamela stood slowly, her face a mask of controlled fury. Security, remove this woman immediately. But I was already pulling my laptop from my bag, already plugging the HDMI cable into the projector port on the podium. The screen behind Pamela flickered to life. I opened the scanned file. The first page of the gray ledger filled the projection screen 10 feet tall. Melissa Crane, 2008, overdose pills, $180,000. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out, cameras flashed. I clicked to the next page. Rachel Mont, 2011, fall apartment balcony, $340,000. Another click. Sarah Bennett, 2015, car accident, $290,000. Pamela's voice cut through the noise. This is slander forged evidence. She is mentally unstable. I turned to face her. Then explain this. I opened the Polaroid folder. 9 images appeared on the screen one by one. Each showed a woman young, smiling alive. Beneath each photo, a name and a date. Melissa Crane, Rachel Mont, Sarah Bennett, Brenda Kofi, Diana Petrova, Hannah Moss, Claire Delaney, Natalie Fletcher. And then the 9th envelope. The label read CR, date unknown. Inside was a Polaroid of me, asleep in the passenger seat of Donovan's car, head tilted against the window, taken the night of August 15th after I'd had too much wine at dinner. I'd never known he'd photographed me. I'd never known I was already part of the collection. The crowd erupted. Voices overlapped, shock, anger, confusion. Warren walked onto the stage. He took a backup microphone from Jenna and spoke, his voice steady and loud. "That's my daughter," he said, pointing to Natalie's photo on the screen. Natalie Fletcher. She married Donovan Ashford in November 2021. 3 months later, she drowned in the Willamette River. The police called it an accident. It wasn't. He killed her, just like he killed 7 others before her, and he was going to kill Cassidy Reeves next. A woman in the 3rd row started crying. Pamela jabbed a finger toward Warren. This man is a convicted stalker. He was institutionalized for mental illness. None of this is real. Trevor stepped forward and handed his phone to a reporter from Oregon Live, sitting in the 2nd row. "Real enough," Trevor said loudly. "Donovan Ashford stole $500,000 from my business account last night using a forged signature. Here's the bank confirmation. Check it yourself." The reporter's eyes widened as she scrolled through the screen. Pamela turned to the security guards. "Arrest these people now." But before anyone could move, the double doors at the back of the auditorium slammed open. 4 figures in navy windbreakers walked in badges clipped to their belts. Leading them was a tall woman with short brown hair, wire-frame glasses, and an expression that could freeze lava. She lifted a microphone and her voice boomed across the hall. "I'm Special Agent Rebecca Torres, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Donovan Ashford and Pamela Ashford, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering under the RICO Act. You have the right to remain silent." The crowd exploded. People stood, shouted, filmed. Reporters rushed the stage. Pamela's face went white. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. But Donovan didn't freeze. He stood, slowly reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small folding knife. The blade snapped open with a metallic click. "Get back," he said quietly, eyes locked on me. He took a step toward the stage. Another step. The crowd screamed. Warren moved in front of me, arms out, shielding my body with his own. Donovan's lips curled into a smile. "You should have run when you had the chance, Cassidy." And then he lunged. Warren's body tensed in front of mine, but he didn't have to move. The FBI agents moved faster. "Hands behind your back now." 2 agents hit Donovan from both sides. One grabbed his wrist, twisting the knife free. It clattered to the stage floor. The other drove him face first into the wooden boards, knee pressed hard against his spine. Within 10 seconds, Donovan was on his stomach, arms wrenched behind him, steel handcuffs clicking into place. He didn't fight, he just smiled. Pamela tried to run. She bolted toward the side exit, heels clicking frantically on the hardwood. Agent Torres stepped into her path badge raised. "Don't," Torres said quietly. Pamela stopped. Her shoulders sagged. A 3rd agent cuffed her hands behind her back. The crowd was a roar of voices, shock, fury, disbelief. Cameras flashed like lightning. A woman in the front row was sobbing. 2 reporters were already live streaming on their phones. Torres walked to the center of the stage and lifted the microphone. "For the record," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has been conducting an 18-month investigation into money laundering operations tied to Multnomah County real estate transactions. As of today, that investigation has officially become a serial murder task force. Thanks to the bravery of this witness, she gestured toward me, we now have enough evidence to charge Donovan Ashford with 9 counts of first-degree murder and Pamela Ashford with conspiracy, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. The applause started slowly, then built like a wave. People stood. Some cheered. Others wiped their eyes. I couldn't move. My legs felt like water. Warren's hand was on my shoulder, steadying me. Jenna was crying. Trevor stood beside her, pale but upright arms crossed over his chest. At 5:50, a man stood up in the back row. He was thin mid-40s with graying hair and hollow eyes. He raised one hand. "My name is Silas Ashford," he said. His voice shook. "I'm Donovan's younger brother. I'm the one who drugged Natalie Fletcher in 2021. I helped him kill her, and I'm here to confess." The room erupted again. Torres motioned to two agents who moved toward him. But Silas didn't resist. He held out his wrists. Before they cuffed him, he looked at me. "I'm sorry. I was 13 when I watched Donovan kill our father in 1999. My mother made it look like a car accident. She's been protecting him and controlling me ever since. I couldn't stop it, but I can stop it now." Torres nodded. "We'll take your statement. If you cooperate fully, we'll consider a reduced sentence." Silas nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I will." At 6 o'clock, just as the auditorium began to empty, a woman walked in through the back doors. She was tall, auburn-haired, maybe 38, dressed in a pale blue blouse and slacks. Her eyes were red, but her posture was steady. She walked straight up to me. "You're Cassidy Reeves," she said. I nodded. "I'm Brooke Winters. I own a spa in Lake Oswego." Her voice cracked. "The FBI called me 2 hours ago. They told me I was on a list, victim number 11. A man named Donovan sent me a message last week on a dating app. I almost replied." She reached out and took both my hands in hers. "You saved my life," she whispered. "Thank you." I couldn't speak. I just held her hands and nodded. 3 months later, November 2024. I sat on the couch in my loft, hands resting on my belly. 6 months along now. The bump was small but real. The baby kicked lightly beneath my palm, a flutter like wings. Warren was in the kitchen making scrambled eggs. He'd been living in the guest room since September, after the county formally expunged his psychiatric record and reinstated his private investigator's license. He cooked breakfast for me every morning. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Trevor had returned my 50% stake in Morrison Architecture Studio. The fraudulent $500,000 loan had been canceled by the bank after a federal investigation. Trevor also started a nonprofit fund to help victims of financial fraud recover their assets and rebuild their lives. He named it the Fletcher Reeves Legal Defense Fund. Donovan Ashford was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. 9 counts of first-degree murder. The judge called it one of the most calculated and cruel schemes in Oregon history. Pamela Ashford received 25 years for money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and obstruction of justice. She'd be 90 years old before she saw daylight again. Silas Ashford's sentence was reduced to 10 years in exchange for his full cooperation. He'd sent me a letter from prison 2 weeks ago. I hadn't opened it yet. Maybe someday I would. Agent Rebecca Torres closed case file number OR-202-3-4418. The FBI had recovered over $4.8 million in stolen assets and began the process of returning funds to the families of the 8 murdered women. It would take years, but it was happening. On November 15, 2024, the Natalie Fletcher Foundation officially launched. Warren served as executive director. Trevor, Jenna, and I made up the advisory board. Our mission to help women escape financial predators, offer free legal aid, and teach people how to recognize the warning signs of romance fraud. I placed my hand on my belly again. The baby kicked. I used to think I couldn't love the child of a monster. I thought about ending the pregnancy more than once. But this baby wasn't his. This baby was mine. Mine and my father's memory. Mine and Warren's second chance. This baby was Hope. So that's what I'd name her. Hope Reeves Fletcher. Warren walked over, set a plate of eggs on the table, and sat down beside me. His eyes were wet. "David would be so proud of you," he said quietly. I smiled. I think he'd be proud of both of us. Outside, the Portland sky was gray and soft with drizzle. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a text from Brooke Winters. "Coffee this week. I want to volunteer for the foundation. BW. I typed back, "Yes, let's build something better together." I set the phone down, leaned back into the couch, and for the first time in 3 months, I let myself breathe all the way out. The nightmare was over, and the rest of my life had just begun. Looking back now, I realize how easily I walked into that trap. I was lonely, tired of being alone, and Donovan Ashford knew exactly how to exploit that vulnerability. He didn't just steal my money or my home, he stole my ability to trust myself. Don't be like me. Don't sign documents you haven't read, no matter how much you trust the person handing you the tablet. Don't ignore red flags because you're afraid of being alone. Don't let anyone's spouse, parent, business partner isolate you from your support system or your financial independence. Family revenge can wear a loving face. Family betrayal often comes wrapped in wedding vows and honeymoon promises. Pamela Ashford didn't just enable her son's crimes, she orchestrated them, weaponizing her position of power to destroy anyone who got in their way. That's not love. That's family revenge disguised as protection. I learned 3 hard lessons. First, verify everything. Trust requires transparency, not blind faith. Second, family betrayal is real and it's devastating, but chosen family like Warren, Trevor, and Jenna can save your life. Third, you are stronger than you think. Even when they take everything, they can't take your will to fight back. God puts people in your path for a reason. Warren appeared at that restaurant not by coincidence, but by grace. He gave me a second chance when I didn't even know I needed one. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing your thoughts below. What would you do if you discovered your partner had systematically erased your identity? Your perspective matters to me. And if you found value in Cassidy's story, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to hear more voices like hers. A note on storytelling. While inspired by real patterns of financial abuse and coercive control, certain elements have been dramatized for narrative impact. If this content doesn't serve you, please explore stories that do.